论教导我们如何了生脱死离苦得乐殊胜无生。Will the Sangha with great virtue out of compassion for the sake of this assembly and all living beings, please turn the wonderful Dharma will to teach us how to live suffering and attain bliss and birth and death, and quickly realize none but.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Namo saranto sucedoye alahari sanyao sanputoshe. Wu shang shen shen wei miao fa, bai qian wan jie nan sao yu. Wo jin jian wan de shou chi, yuan jie ru lai zhen shi yi. Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered, even in a million eons. But now we see and hear it and accept it reverently, truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. Venerable Master, Dharma friends, good evening everybody. Welcome to our Sutra lecture. Today is the 24th or 25th? 24th today, 24th of August, and we're here, Berkeley, California, to look into the Flower Garland Sutra with everybody. We've got the 9th stage out of 10 stages, and we're just beginning the repetitive verses, the Chongsong, which starts again at the top in terms of content, but does it in terms of metered prose. Metered verse. So it goes ba-bum, 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 ba-bum. And we're going to take an attempt at singing it like we did in chapters past. So this is, it's one of those good moments where we get to review, and the chapter kind of springs into perspective because of where we are in the structure of it. All right. Shall we start? We're going to invoke spiritual presence with the title of the text here. We're going to chant it in Chinese. One of these days, I promise, we'll have it in English. That's the melody. Namo Da Fang Guang Fo Hua Yan Jing, Hua Yan Hai Hui Fo Pu Sa. Here we go. Namo Da Fang Guang Fo Hua Yan Jing, Hua Yan Hai Hui Fo Pu Sa. Namo Da Fang Guang Fo Hua Yan Jing, Hua Hua Yan pusa. One more time. Namo That's a national resonator mandolin that we're accompanying with. Quick overview, 10 stages chapter, how a bodhisattva lives, thinks, talks, contemplates, cultivates in detail. We're at the 9th stage out of 10. Every one of those stages is built on a 2-part structure. First is the prose, where we get to hear in grammar, in syntax. Then it switches, and we get the same teachings, but done in verse. Verses go pa-pum, pa-pum. They're metered. There's only a certain number of words you can use. And because they're in verse, they were probably sung, not spoken. When they meter, it's easy to remember. You can memorize them quickly. So we know for sure that the sutras were passed on for a long time in the oral tradition. That is to say, they weren't written, right? And you listen to your teacher, you listen to a traveling pandit, somebody who was an expert in reciting, come into town, or you went to visit him at a special place, a temple or a shrine, and he would be trained to do just that, to commit to memory the traditional teachings. And this might have been, the Buddha might have just passed away, or the inner nirvana. It might have been 100 years later, 200 years later, but at the time, the carbon-based, hydrocarbon, human, I'm pointing here, but the Chinese would point here, the human mind was the number one medium for memorizing. There was no silicon-based, digital memory. There was no acetone tape running past the magnetized head like in your Walkman, No such thing as that. There was no vinyl disc with a groove and scratches in it. None of those later memory devices that we came up with. It was the mind, and it was the most reliable. This was in a time before entertainment, so to speak. It was before TV, before radio, before any artificial music or dancing, and as a result, we're losing our volume. What's going on here? Jerry, just suddenly the volume dropped. Did you notice? Did you hear that? Is it maybe my hearing is going bad before your eyes? Eh? What? Oh, okay. What's that? Oh, okay, yeah, good. So, you would go to listen to a pandit, and I've told this story before. We haven't touched the text yet, so maybe I should keep my story till we do the text, but I'm talking about memory, and I took a class in Sanskrit at UC Berkeley from Professor Goldman, Robert Goldman, Bob, who was was and still is pretty much the expert in teaching Sanskrit to Westerners, or to anyone. And Professor Goldman that day invited Pandit Bhatta into the class. I don't know if he brought him over from India particularly, but Pandit Bhatta was in the Bay Area. And who is Pandit Bhatta? He's a Brahmin Veda reciter. That was his life. He had been trained from childhood to do nothing but recite the Vedas. And of course, he ate a special diet, he thought special thoughts, wore special clothes, lived among special people so that the Vedas that were entrusted to him would be unpolluted. They would be pure and perfect, just the way they had been since, there are people who will tell you that the Vedas are the oldest books, oldest literature in the world. There are different opinions, but that's certainly one of them. So Pandit Bhatta came in, and who was he? He was this skinny, young Brahmin guy, wearing white, hopped up on the desk in the class, crossed his legs, put his palms together, and the first thing he did was chant a praise of Sanskrit, which you do. What did we do? We just went, Wu Shang, Shan Shan, Wei Miao Pa, right? We just did our praise of the Dharma, verse for opening Dharma. Identical, same thing. Well, his praise was of the Sanskrit language, which is, to their mind, perfect language. It is, when you write it, it's Devanagari. It's the writing of the gods, right? The Devas write in Sanskrit when they write Cyrillic. So are the across the top. Pandit Bhatta praised Sanskrit and then launched into his recitation. And I cannot, for the life of me, imitate him, not even a single syllable, because it was too wonderful. But he closed his eyes and loosened up his head joint so he could waggle his head, and started chanting, and just, going through the stanzas and the skatas and the gayas and the padas and the strophes, and on and on. And Bob Goldman was like beaming. See, what's possible, Pandit Bhatta was in some sort of samadhi as he was reciting what he had been trained to recite. And as I understand it, certain pandits are given certain sections of text which are theirs, and they kind of own that in one school, and then there'll be another school where someone else has that chunk, and that's their life. And our jaws just all hit the top of our desks, because Pandit Bhatta went on for 20 minutes, and and Professor Goldman said, okay, at the right place, that's good, thank you. And so he got to the right passage, and then did their transference just to honor the text. And Bob Goldman said, well, there you go. This is what's called Pandit recited Sanskrit. So that was quite a demonstration of what the mind is capable of. And only after I saw Master Hua recite the Song of Enlightenment with the same kind of energy did I realize that both Indians and Chinese had this tradition of memorization. We have 3 more benches. If our benches run out, we got 3 more, but there's 4 empty seats in the front for the next folks who come in. Please encourage them to sit in front. That's why we ask everybody to sit front, so people don't have to climb over you. But there are 3 more benches nobody's using. Okay, so this was recited from memory for centuries before it was written down. We've done number 1 and number 2, I believe. I don't recall whether we explained number 3 last time, but in any case, we'll start with number 3 tonight and do it with a melody. Haha. If you remember, the folks who were here last time, we had verses. We actually tried to do it with a melody. First thing first, Chinese. No Sanskrit. Chinese. I'm on stanza number 3. The first line on the top of page 88 and page 89 is the last prose line. 二十金刚藏菩萨. We did that. We did 无量智力. We did 总其三昧. We're going to start with 住于此地. Okay? Everybody follow where we are? If you count from the top, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, line 6. Count from the bottom, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right? I'll give you the lines, you give them back to me. If you can't read the Hanzi, the characters, read the Romanized spelling. ZHUYUCIDI, like that. Ready? Here we go. 住于此地持法藏，了善不善其无己。其无记, that's a fourth tone. That last is a fourth. Here we go. 有漏无漏是出世，似不思议悉善知。All right, now here we go. Ready? On this stage, he maintains a storehouse of Dharma. Try it. On this stage, he maintains a storehouse of Dharma. Very good. He understands good, bad, and indeterminate karma. He understands good, bad, and indeterminate karma. He distinguishes outflows, what is free from outflows, the mundane and the transcendent. He distinguishes outflows, what is free from outflows, the mundane and the transcendent. What is conceivable, the inconceivable, all this he knows well. What is conceivable, the inconceivable, all this he knows well. All right, we did it. Look at that, with a melody. Now, what are we doing here? We've, the Chinese, you notice, goes 住的住于此地持法藏 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times 4. So it's 28. Okay, we get to practice our Dharma. 3 bowing cushions. Who wants to be vigorous and grab those? Who do we? Yeah, well, nobody wants to sit in front. Hey, Jennifer will sit in front. That's good. Yay, grabs it. Okay. Next time somebody comes in, we need 3 more cushions, which are waiting over there in the back. Okay, 7 syllables times 4 is a quatrain, right? 4 lines. 7 syllables, sometimes 5, usually 7. Okay, and because the Chinese is da 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 da, it really limits what you can say, right? It cuts away the grammar, any kind of extraneous word, because it's terse to the extreme. English, not so. Oh my goodness. English, we've got to have, Tina, you're nominated to sit in the number 4 right there. Okay. To make sense of it, we have to use all kinds of grammar. So guess what? The lines are all, my mother would say, scrunchy wampus. They're all different lengths. They don't rhyme. They don't meter. There's no inherent aesthetic at all. It's just there for the meaning, so we get the meaning. So, on this stage, he maintains a storehouse of Dharma. He understands good, bad, and indeterminate karma. All right, well, it happens to rhyme, but that's totally accidental. On this stage, 住于此地持法藏, this bodhisattva, what is he doing? He is in the process of becoming what is called a 大法师, a major, important teacher of Dharma. We used to say he's a great Dharma master, but great has lost all value, right? Great can mean, wow, great, meaning awesome, right? Or it can mean big, or it just means it's kind of a filler word for approval. We like it, so it's great. That's great. Yeah. How you doing? Great. You're looking great. You know, great doesn't mean what it used to mean, which was quite extraordinary. Better than good, right? So we're no longer calling him a great Dharma master. We're calling him a significant, important teacher, a teacher of note, all right? That's what our bodhisattva is doing here. And as a teacher, what does he need? He needs knowledge. She needs knowledge. She needs to know a lot. And this first part of these verses has to do with the bodhisattva. We find out what he knows now, what she knows, because she's in the process of absorbing information that she is going to teach. Okay? She's on her way to becoming a Da Fa Shi, a massive Dharma master, an awesome Dharma master, not one who would sit in the front seat and nod like that after a long day, right? Not me. No, no. I used to be number one in becoming a sleepy Dharma master. I'd wake up with the sutra printed on my forehead, you know. So, because these lines are different lengths, they don't rhyme, so when I put it to a tune, you know where I went? I went, in my mind, to Catholic Mass. Ho, 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 in English. I had the privilege to be invited down to New Camaldoli Benedictine Hermitage in Big Sur to give a 3-day series of talks on Guanyin Bodhisattva. No apology. They invited me to go down to the Catholic monastery to speak on Guanyin, not her transformation body of the Holy Blessed Virgin Mother Mary, but Guanyin. And of course, being there, I soaked up all of the ceremonies that I could. And do you know what those monks do? They are in church 8 times a day. 8 times a day. And these guys work hard. They drive tractors. They grow their own food. They paint. They build, But 8 times a day, they go chugging into the church, put on their vestments, and go in to the pews and chant what? The Psalms, right? Psalms. What is the Psalms? The Psalms is a book from the Hebrew Scriptures, from the what we would call as a Methodist Old Testament, meaning the Hebrew-based traditional Jewish legacy history text. The Psalms are songs, and King David was said to have authored them mostly, if not all, but there are other opinions. The Psalms, these monks go through them on the calendar year. Start at the beginning, chant them all the way through. When they're done, they start over. Chant them all the way through. When they're done, they start over. And they, of course, there are holidays that they fit into the Psalms and all. But they have been blessed with a liturgist. What is a liturgist? A liturgist is somebody who does liturgy. What is liturgy? Liturgy is ceremonies, right? And who is that? That's Father Cyprian Concilio, who was later promoted to be the abbot, called the prior. But at the time when I was there, Father Cyprian was the one who took the Latin psalm chanting and Americanized it, westernized it, Englishized it, anglicized it, right? And he was so good at it that there were other churches, other monasteries around the world who were waiting to hear his version, so they would pick it up immediately. We, here at the Berkeley Buddhist Monastery, are waiting for our liturgist to show up. Who's it going to be? Job wanted, help wanted, apply within, inquire within. We're waiting for our liturgist to come and take our Chinese ceremonies and do a good job of putting them into English. We've done a sort of okay job, not yet fixed the way we want it. So Father Cyprian took the Latin chanting of the Psalms and put it into magnificent, chantable, singable English lines. And they would go, using limitless powers of wisdom, he skillfully contemplates things supremely wonderful and rarely known to the world. He engages all the Tathagata's secret dharmas and masters the 9th stage to benefit sentient beings. Like that. And it just, you wanted to get to the next line to hear how it was going to, oh, magnificent. So that was kind of what I had rattling in my ear as I set this to a melody, something like, sort of like that, something, but it's not fixed yet. And the benefit of that is you can fit as many syllables into the line, because at the end you're going to go hum. When you finally get to the end of the line, you go up. When you get to the end, you go hum. So, right? Doesn't matter how long the line is, it still fits into the end of the phrase. Amen. Bodhisvaha. So that's the idea. That's what we're doing. So now that's the form. Let's look at the content. On this stage, what does our Bodhisattva do? Maintains a storehouse of Dharma. He is a storehouse maintainer. No, he's not. What does it mean? It means he's got a good memory. He remembers what he hears. That's why he's teaching it. She is teaching it. She's going to be pulling out these principles so that people can go, that doesn't make sense to me. There's no principle there. Or, bingo, you got it right. Right? Because he or she has been listening carefully. And not only listening outside, but removing the darkness from his or her nature through meditation and practice and repentance, and comparing the principles that correspond within to the situations that they observe outside. All right? So far so good. On this stage he maintains the storehouse of Dharma. He understands good, bad, and indeterminate karma. Liao shan, bu shan, ji wu ji. Okay, karma comes in 3 kinds, according to the traditional description of karma that the Buddha passed along, did not invent, did not create. The Buddha said, I observe that this is how the universe works. This is lifting the hood on the engine of the world and watching the pistons go up and down or sideways, turning the crankshaft, giving the drive to the wheels through the differential and the transmission so the car goes forward. This is how the world works. Karma, cause and effect. Cause and effect comes in 3 forms. There is wholesome, beneficial behavior, actions, and the results. There is unwholesome, unbeneficial, action and results. And there's that funny mid-ground called wuji, which is, there's a good and a not so good way to translate wuji ye. I think it's not that it's unfixed, it's that it's hard to determine. There's nothing about this behavior that is clearly either good or bad. And while that could be a big category of behavior, pretty much I haven't run across many instances in the text of what is a good case of wuji ye, indeterminate karma. All right? So, this bodhisattva can tell the difference. What's the verb? Liao. He resolves. He can tell. Shan, bu shan, good and bad. And also indeterminate. He looks at it, knows it. Okay? You lo wu lo, chu shi chu, 有漏无漏是出是. Because it's 7 syllables, it's really terse. 有漏无漏, outflowing and non-outflowing. That's literal. By the way, the gentleman sitting in the front row on the balcony, our friend, I'm going to point to those books on the edge there and say directly below you there are some living beings who probably don't want that on their heads. Maybe pull that area. There we go. Makes me nervous seeing that. I'd have to apologize to... I'm sorry, Lena, he didn't mean it. You can punch him afterwards. So, yeah. So, okay. Now, is that indeterminate or was that good or bad karma? That was maybe preventative. That's called was that outflowing or non-outflowing? So I could have just let it happen and then let you two fight it out. You know, Agong is going to fight out with Lena. I didn't mean it. Okay. So yolo wulo, he distinguishes outflows and what is free from outflows. What is outflows? Outflows is behavior that creates the karma that we mostly carries us to birth and death. Puts us back in samsara, on the wheel. Non-outflow, so wulo, is the result of huiguang, bringing your energy back. And maybe the second time I went to Gold Mountain Monastery as a graduate student, maybe the second time I ever heard Master Hua speak, he said, "Hui guang fan zhao, fan qiu zhu ji." You want to, he would say, and we translated it faithfully, without decoding the Dharma. We said, "Return the light and shine within." Hui guang fan zhao. Return the light and shine within. There you go. That's reliable Chinglish, right? Got to return the light and shine within. What does that mean? It means check your intention, right? Essentially. Watch. And what I understood later was that in contemporary Taiwan, when people hear that, they're hearing something different than what Shifu meant. Hui guang fan zhao means something like, there's a good English phrase for what modern contemporary Mandarin would say. It's something like, let's see, there's an English phrase for it. It's dancing around in there. It's when a mom scolds her child. Hui guang fan zhao. It's sort of like, Jennifer, do you know? Can you give me a good, what is, if you hear 一半的人, 你的姐姐, 你的妹妹说, hui guang fan zhao. What does that mean in English? Is there a phrase for that? It's like time out. When somebody dies. Oh, wow, that's total. Yes, agreed. Before they die. Oh my goodness, that's different. Jerry, same. Wow, totally different. I was following what Sandy said, the time out. Yeah, it's like, okay, so Jennifer's mom said, there is the brief flickering of the candle before it goes out, before somebody dies. Hui guang fan zhao. Oh, that's another, I totally didn't expect that. Okay, multiple meanings. The Buddhist meaning that Master Hua gave us meant you are outflowing and reclaim your energy. Hui guang fan zhao is typically the eyes, but there's an ear equivalent, which is fan wen wen zixing. Return your hearing. There is a yogic interpretation of that phrase. When you hui guang fan zhao, you go, oh, I'm going to stop staring. I'm going to stop outflowing through my eyes, looking at the world, trying to get a good deal and a bargain, and go, I've reclaimed my energy. I'm not going to go out seeking, right? It's like that. The ear organ equivalent is fan wen xing, return the hearing. In pure Chinglish, return the hearing to hear the self-nature. That's also hui guang, but it's not using guang, it's using wen, it's using sound, sheng, shengyin. Isn't that interesting? So hui guang fan zhao, from the Buddhist point of view, I know, the word was mind your own business is close to hui guang fan zhao. That was what I was looking for. So chill, you said time out. This is all over the place. Didn't we used to have a better one? This was the second one? Yeah, it's flying all over. Okay, there we go. So anyway, so it's an important phrase, and it is the difference between you lo wu lo, our third line here, right? You lo wu lo, heng. Let's see here. You lo wu lo, shi chu shi. This bodhisattva can tell when somebody is losing their energy or taking charge. You hear that, Jerry? That there's this. Yeah, I really do. This is not a happy sound. Because if you turn it down, then you can't hear me. If you turn it to the right volume, it's either that or the wind baffle, that tiny little dude. Yeah. Right. Let's see if that's an improvement. So this, my point was to say that this was a phrase that Master Hua used in his teaching regularly. You heard this a lot. He considered cultivation to be the gradual reclaiming of control of your energy that was low, outflowing from your eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind. Right? And there are said to be 五眼六通, 5 spiritual eyes, kinds of vision, and 6 spiritual powers, psychic abilities. The liu tong, everybody knows number 6, is called lo jin tong, the ultimate cessation of lo, outflowing. They say that demons, Mara, the demon king, can have all 5, but not the 6th one. The Buddha is the only one who has all 6. And in other words, this lo, this outflowing, is a really, really important part of cultivation that we develop slowly. When we get to Buddhahood, we've completed the reclaiming of our energy. How interesting, right? Just for what it's worth, that I heard Hui Guang Fan Zhao, and I didn't understand it because the translation was "return the light and shine within." Like, what? What does that possibly mean? And I didn't recognize that I was shining light outside at all. I had to return it, recycle. I didn't connect with it, and yet it was so important to Master Hua that it was clearly worth contemplating. worth understanding. And it was in a Chan session, years after leaving home, when I, at one point, was so frustrated with my lack of progress in meditation, seeking progress, of course, which is a mistake in itself, that I was, what were we doing? I was working on Guanyin Bodhisattva dharmas, and what occurred to me while sitting in meditation was the chapter on the Shurangama Sutra, Guanyin Bodhisattva's Fan Wen Wen Zixing, the best of the 25 sages, the best method for meditation of the 25 sages. People know that section? It's the powerful chapter of the Shurangama Sutra, not our Avatamsaka. There I was. Manjushri Bodhisattva interviews 25 people who have zheng de yuan tong. They have realized perfect awakening. They've awakened. And Manjushri selects the best one of all the 25 methods. Sure enough, he picks Guanyin Bodhisattva's method, which is what? Fan Wen Wen Zixing, Xing Cheng Wu Shang Dao. Return the hearing, using the ear organ to do whatever that means. Fan Wen, like Hui Guang Fan Zhao. You Hui Guang, return illumination, Fan Zhao, shine back, right? In this case, it's Fan Wen, return the hearing, Wen Si Xing, listen to your own nature. So I was sitting in Chan, meditating, really frustrated, but day number 5 or something, and I was just mostly sleeping instead of sitting, meditating. And I thought, what could this possibly mean? Well, how do you Fan Wen? And I thought, just stop listening outside. And I went, whoop, and I got this burst of energy and clarity. What was that? And what did I just do? And to tell you the truth, I still don't know what it was, but I know that it had something to do with the idea of guarding the gates of my 6 senses. It had to do with you lo wu lo, shi chu shi. And it was like, that was weird, because I didn't move physically, but I knew that somehow I had reclaimed the energy that was going outside, seeking nice sounds and wanting to avoid negative sounds. But how esoteric is that? How subtle? Because there was nothing to see, I didn't do anything, and yet just by Fan Wen, thinking, what if I reclaimed the energy of my ears? And I did it, and it was like, ding, oh. And somehow I was sitting with more energy just then. Question?
What is a more modern term, like more daily relatable?
For which one?
For outflow?
Outflows.
Outflow is not a common.
I know. We're working on it.
Like with scatter?
Okay, scatter's okay. If you look at the character, it's it's a water radical with a body, the corpse radical, on top of rainfall. So there's 2 kinds of water. There's flowing water and there's falling water, and there's a body. Pretty graphic character, right? So we have thought about scattering. We've thought about the opposite of it would be recycling, probably, or reintegrating, something like that. An outflow is a loss, something like that. But in the phrase, by itself, it's hard to identify. In the phrase Hui Guang, Fan Zhao, Fan Wen Wen Zixing, those are both considered outflows. Sometimes you go to the context to get the picture. So here's the Buddha is the only being who has accomplished all 6 of the Shantong. And the one that he has that no one else, that the demons can't touch, is Lo Jin. no more scattering, no more losing of his light or energy, right? So it's a yogic term. It's still kind of subtle, kind of esoteric. So if the demons, Mara, let's say, decided they were going to get all six, they would cease being a demon, right? They would be a Buddha, because it's that energy that makes them bright. Now, what about that? Here's the theory. This is our fundamental theory, and it's really worth repeating. Let's do the next phrase. 是出世. Worldly, world transcending. This bodhisattva knows what is outflowing, what is no longer scattered, what is simply mundane, and what is supramundane, which goes beyond mundane. 四不思议, thinkable and unthinkable. 西上智, here's the verb, completely knows it all. Bodhisattva knows all this stuff, right? So, it's saying in the ninth stage, our bodhisattva, as she becomes a major teacher of Dharma, understands all this in preparation for going out teaching. You can tell the difference right away. Okay, now get back to it. 是出世. What's our basic teaching? Our basic story says what? What is it about the Dharma that's different from other, you could say, religious Dharma, religious teaching, religious doctrine? It's that fundamentally nobody lacks the Buddha's wisdom. Nobody is without it. The problem is we cover it over. Cultivation is uncovering something that's already bright and full, no outflows. But because we don't know that, we outflow, looking for something that we think is out there. Oh, finally I'm going to get it, and I'll be happy. I'll get the perfect boyfriend, the last boyfriend I ever need. Oh, you know what? He's just as bad as the last one, right? I'll get the trophy wife. She's on a pedestal. She's perfect. And then she's not. Why? Because we're looking for something that is fundamentally, the issue is with me, not with anything outside. Not with him or her, right? But we don't know that, and so we run outside. That's our teaching. That's our fundamental Dharma teaching. You can't get anything outside that will make you complete. Never, never. Okay? And you only know that once you hui guang or fan wen and realize, wow, by reclaiming, re-owning, reintegrating myself, I discovered that I didn't need anything outside. That's world transcending. What is worldly? You deserve a break today, so get out and get away to McDonald's. I'm loving it. You only go around once in this life. Grab for all the gusto you can get. That's profoundly worldly, right? The marketplace depends on convincing you that you will only be happy if you buy that product or that service or get that person or get that degree or get that promotion, and so we run after it. We do. That movie that we keep praising, the one called Century of the Self, right? You all know that one? Again, we'll recommend it. Go onto YouTube and check out this 3-part documentary called The Century of the Self. The first part is the best one. The second part is pretty good. The third one is not as interesting. It gets political. But the first one is so powerful because it talks about the invention of public relations and advertising by Sigmund Freud's nephew. Sigmund Freud's nephew took his uncle's theories, which were not popular in Europe, and put them to a worldly use in America and essentially enthroned greed. And you can see it happen. Edward Bernays was his name. And he, before, the best example is they show you in old black and white images. Before Edward, right? Edward Bernays, before him, if you wanted to buy shoes, you went to the shoe shop. And over the shoe shop was a wooden sign with a boot painted on it. You went in and he took your size and got the last, they call it LAST, which is the outline of your foot, probably drew it, and then got the hard leather and then put the heel on like a cobbler. Cobblers did this. Then he stitched on the sole and and measured up. Those are your shoes or your boots if you were a worker, right? And when they wore out, what did you do? Take them back and get your shoes resold. Did you ever, Sally, did you ever get your shoes resold? I did. We went to the shoe shop and they put on new soles, new heels. Wear the heels down, you get your heels replaced. Because those were your shoes, right? You didn't have two pairs. Maybe you had a second pair, maybe not. And that was it. After Edward Bernays, oh my goodness, you went to the window and you looked and there was a red pair. Those are pretty. There's a pair with sequins on it. There's a pair with pearl buttons on them, and there's the high-heeled, and then there's the athletic shoes, and then there's sandals, and you just have to buy them all because you saw somebody at the wedding wearing shoes that made you jealous, right? And I swear, if you want to say, is there anything different between men and women? Yes, there is. Women notice shoes. Any guys notice shoes? Did you know what anybody wore today? Shoes, do you notice? They know. That side of the room. Bags, handbags, right? Yeah, there's a difference. Okay. Anyway, so how interesting, right? Edward Bernays made greed part of the marketplace. Suddenly, the pair of shoes you had was no longer enough. Women smoking. Incredible. Yeah, the story is a wonderful, wonderful story. That one is worth telling too. That is worldly. Because why? You outflow. You're not happy if you don't have the shoes, right? The story goes on. It's a wonderful video put out by the BBC. The tobacco industry hired Edward Bernays to popularize cigarettes. Cigarettes were something that men alone used. Women did not smoke. If women smoked, they were lost all status. They were considered low, cheap. So Edward Bernays, using his uncle Sigmund Freud's theories about mass group behavior, among other theories, said, oh, you know what? He said, oh, I see. The debutantes and the young women of the world are about to take to the streets for suffrage, voting rights. It was the time before women had the vote. And he said, aha, I happen to know that in Chicago, in Philadelphia, in Boston, in New York, in Washington, D.C., in Denver, young women, particularly college girls, were going to appear on the streets with signs saying, women deserve the vote. So Edward Bernays went to the organizers of the suffrage demonstrations and said, he said, what do you want? And they said, publicity. And he said, all right, I'll bring the papers. Take cigarettes, light up, give cigarettes to every single one of your girls. The newspapers will be there to cover it, because that is sensational. And you'll get, never mind the cigarettes, you'll get coverage for your cause. They said, all right. And on the day of the demonstration, across the country, all these young women showed up with a sign saying women deserve the vote, smoking cigarettes. It became a sensation. Within the next 6 months, tobacco industry profits went like this. It became fashionable for every young woman, half the population suddenly picked up cigarettes. Score for Edward Bernays, right? Goes on to talk about how he overthrew the government of Panama because of advertising, how Richard Nixon planted anti-communist propaganda among the bananas so that United Fruit, an American company, overthrew the government, the legitimately elected government of Panama because of public relations, right? It hit the newspapers and blah, blah, blah. So, fascinating, fascinating documentary. And the point is, our theory that I mentioned, which is we have enough. We are perfectly sufficient in wisdom and compassion without cigarettes and 10 pairs of shoes and Hermes handbags. But the world, the marketplace, tells us otherwise. And what is wisdom? Wisdom goes, I see that message, thank you very much. No, I don't need another one. I'm okay with the one that I already have. Right? That eternal upgrade. So, knowing what is need and knowing what is greed is skill in the world, able to apply these principles. What does the Bodhisattva do? The Bodhisattva distinguishes outflows, what is free from outflows, or how to reclaim his own outflowing energy. He recognizes what is mundane and what is transcendent. And this is cool. 四不思议, 西山之. What is thinkable and what is beyond thought. And what does that mean? A lot of the Buddha Dharma comes in invisible principles, invisible to eyes that are seeking, bound up in what's called duality. Mostly all of the way we see the world. I told a story a couple weeks ago about Master Hua sitting in a basketball court in Malaysia and tweaking his monks as we were standing behind him while everybody came to bow to Master Hua. He said, "What are you seeing tonight?" We said, "A lot of lay people, Shifu?" He said, "No, mostly frogs and foxes," he said. "Shifu, what? No, they're mostly frogs here and a few foxes. Do you see the foxes?" "Shifu, foxes?" He said, "No, don't worry about it. Too much false thinking." And then the next night, everybody's bowing. You say, "What color are they?" We say, "Shifu, colors?" He says, "Yeah. What are you seeing? What colors?" I have no colors, Shifu. No, you can't see their Oh, okay. No, that's all right. Never mind. Too much false thinking. That's right. Just pulling our chain, letting us know that right in front of us, right this minute, there are other dimensions of knowledge that we stuck in self and others, rights and wrongs, true and false, you and me and mine, gain and loss, we don't see. And this phrase, that was another phrase that popped up at Gold Mountain right away, was 不可思议. It is truly inconceivable. And what's the question? The question is, knowledge mostly is passed on in language and thought. The question I would ask is there anything that you can know beyond what you can talk about and what you can think? What about that? That's a provocative question, isn't it? Most of the Buddha Dharma begins at the place beyond language and thought. What realm is that? It's called the Dharma realm. Fa, Jie. It's the realm of principle. Okay? How does a child know that it's right and good to repay their parents' kindness? We don't have to be told. We just know it, right? Is it a thought? It's a feeling, a thought, a goodness, a light, a conviction. Yeah, and if we see it, if we see somebody doing it, serving their parents, repaying their kindness, listening, responding to that goodness, the child goes, print. Right? Why? Is it conceivable? You don't need to hear it named. You just wanna. Right? That's one of those, it's not intellectual. That's the point. Now, how do you get there? Is it magic? Is this flim-flam that we're talking about? Airy-fairy? Meditate and ask yourself, who is in there? Who is nian fo shi shui? Who's mindful of the Buddha? Who is reciting the Buddha's name? Until you catch that place where words are rising. And you realize, oh, knowledge, language, thought is part of my brain. There's part of the mind that got shaped by language and symbol, but there's a huge part of the mind that operates profoundly well before things get named. So is this a chabe, or is it un verre in French? What is glass in Japanese? Teacup in Japanese is何ですか? これは 茶碗. そうですね. 茶碗ですか? Is it a cup? Is it a mug? You know, or does it exist without the name? Yeah, it totally does. Is it conceivable? You don't have to. It still exists whether I can name it or not. So, okay, easily we get past that realm of conceivability, right, to that inconceivable place. And that is the doorway to the Dharma. So, how interesting. Where is Guanyin Bodhisattva? Do we have to name Guanyin? Do we have to see her and like shake her hand before she exists? Or is it only the realm of faith, but it's the realm of response? Okay, are you ready? Here's an inconceivable for you. Mind you, we've only got one verse so far. Question? The question is, can you live for a day without naming things? Is it possible? The problem inherent in that question is nobody will know if you are or not, right? You can't communicate it. But, so, I would say yes or no, and you couldn't prove it. But it's worth thinking about. It's an interesting hypothetical question. So, I didn't talk for 6 years. I didn't speak for 6 years. And there were periods when language receded a bit to say, oh, I operated in a world without names. Not at all. My inner dialogue was going strong. Rattle, 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 rattle. Even though it didn't come out my mouth, I was still naming and forming. What's fascinating is there are said to be 12 links of conditioned arising, the Buddha's principle of called pratitya samutpada, shi er yin yuan, right? Conditioned arising. And number 3 is ming, si, name and form. So there's consciousness, activity, name and form. Wu ming yuan xing, xing yuan shi, shi yuan ming si, right? There is ignorance, there is activities, there is consciousness, name and form. So you can get to a realm of pure consciousness, I suppose, but as soon as you know you're in that realm of consciousness, there's name and form, right? So it's kind of like trying to wake up just fast enough to catch yourself asleep. You're never going to do it. right? You try to cut the knife with its own handle, cut the handle of the knife with the blade. You can't get there fast enough. Same thing. So, but theoretically, maybe so. Here's one of those stories. This is the one that I wanted to share. She gave us permission to tell this story. Our beloved elder, Mrs. Chun, who's one of the senior members of our community. She was here today for lunch. After lunch, Mrs. Chun came up and she said, Fasher, I want to tell you. She said, my Jie, my older sister, 92 years old, lives in a little village outside of Suzhou, so eastern coastal China, 92 years old. She had a habit that she kept up for many decades, which was she got up at 3 in the morning and started to recite sutras from memory. She recited until 7, 4 hours every day. And Mrs. Chun said she refused to not do it. People would say, just relax, come on, why are you so... No, I got to do my homework, she said. 3 o'clock in the morning until 7 every morning. And then she started out on her day, right, to do the things you do, raising families. 92, she'd been doing it for decades. She never missed. She was really strong in this. Okay, well, last week, her family saw her. She was sitting up, wearing clean clothes. She put on her Buddhist lay robe, put her palms together, and sat this way for 5 days and 5 nights. And then at the end, died, passed away. No illness, no sickness, right? And, okay, now, there are many people who would say that is 不思议. How could this 92-year-old woman, 93, 92, Chinchuan, right, 92, what's going on? Whereby she was in control of her physical body, her mental, emotional, intellectual, right, processes to the point where she could be in control of her birth and death. No illness, passed away 5 days and 5 nights. Interesting thing to contemplate, right? So I remember Marty was talking about observing his mother. I don't think he'd mind if I told the story. Marty was a really filial son, Professor Verhoeven, people know him. And he cared about his mom a lot. And when she was passing away, it was not sudden, she was slow decline. And he was there in her bedroom when it was time for her to die. And he said he watched the processes. He watched her shut down. And his awareness was what a organic thing death is. How the skandhas, right? The earth, air, fire, and water, the sensations, the thinking, the deeper processes, one by one, she was relinquishing her grip on life. And he said you could see the light just recede, and she was slowly dying. And his impression was what? It's not a thought. It's a process. And he was so powerless to stop that. And he said, boy, if somebody can actually liao sheng tuo si, put an end to their birth and death, he said, you have to have incredible strength. and just medical science cannot describe what is involved in stopping that process. And yet the Buddha Dharma is full of stories of people who've done exactly that. So that's Marty's story. And then we have Mrs. Chun's story about her 92-year-old sister in a small village outside of Suzhou who did just that, right? She, without any illness, knows when she's going to die, and sitting there peacefully, 5 days and 5 nights, unmoving, finally passes away. In control. Shifu calls it Lai Ming Qu Bai. Lai Qu, coming and going, Ming Bai. You understand? Now, is that Si Yi or Bu Si Yi? Is that thinkable or inconceivable? Interesting, huh? What was the last thing you said? Tie it back to outflow what? And reclaiming? That's what you said. Okay. Reclaiming your energy. Yeah. I mean, the cause that Mrs. Chun, I'm passing on the story I heard today at lunch, after lunch. As her older sister, this is her Jie, was reciting her sutra. She called it her homework, right, her gongke. As she was doing this work, every day, 4 hours, that's a lot of time to give to reciting sutras without exception, without missing, right? What was she doing? I don't know. But if you can, what does the Amitabha Sutra say? If you can recite to Ishin Bulan, to a place of focused attention without luan. Luan and lo are pretty much the same. Our traditional translation, one heart unconfused. One heart, yeah, one heart. How many hearts do you have? I got a couple of them. Boom, boom, boom. One, to focused concentration, Ishin, to a place of single-minded attention, Bulan, without any scattering. Use that one. Without any confusion. The result was she didn't die in a normal way, which is usually murky, out of control, giving up, like Marty watched his mom. She could not reverse that process. Well, the Jie apparently did, right? How out of control are we? Okay, I had some medium anesthesia on Monday of this week for a minor medical procedure up in the gastroenterologist office in Ukiah. I can't remember what happened because they told me as they introduced the drugs into my IV that I would have short-term memory loss. That was part of it, so that the procedure could proceed. And I don't remember. Don't remember who put my clothes back on me. I had my medical gown on, and I had my clothes in a bag, plastic bag. When I woke up, I didn't go completely out, but I can't remember. That section of my life is forever gone, that hour, and totally out of control, So, and I remember, the one thing I do remember is getting out of the car back at my cottage and vomiting into the bushes, spitting out whatever they had put in me. And totally out of control of my own processes, So how fragile is our veneer of control, right? Interesting. So, on this stage, he maintains a storehouse of Dharma. He understands good, bad, and indeterminate karma. He distinguishes outflows, what is free from outflows, the mundane and the transcendent, what is conceivable and the inconceivable. All this he knows well. Well. Can't hit it. Da-dee-da-da. Ah. Well. Question? Yeah. You just turn it back. That's it. Like I described it. I was sitting in Chan, right? And I didn't know what I did, but I thought, what if there's a door? They talk about it as the Liu Gan Men Tao. They say the gateways to the six senses. Whatever I did, I wish I could tell you precisely what I did, but it's invisible. I don't know. But I know that I just went, instead of letting my ears go out the way they normally did, what if I just found one, thought about it, in a single thought, pulled my hearing back? There was a difference. That's all I can say. I did it once. And what I found myself trying later was like, grimacing and trying to pull my hearing back and doing all kinds, like sticking my tongue out, and trying to do it with a style and with, and a totally attached and false thinking. It's way more subtle than that. So my best answer to the questioner is try. Try it, but don't try too hard. If you tie yourself in a knot trying to reverse your hearing, you've also gone wrong. So what are these? These are invisible, inconceivable dharmas that cultivators have mastered forever. Isn't this interesting? What are you doing with your life? Well, I'd like to see if I can reclaim my energy, if I can recycle my outflowing life essence. That's a good thing to do. Well, try your best. Just know that it's possible. And is it a secret dharma? Well, no, it's very public, but who does it? And right here is birth and death. Right? How important is that? How many hours have we spent watching movies on Netflix? How many hours have we spent returning our hearing? Compare it. What did we get out of any single movie on Netflix compared to what we get by discovering magically, incredibly, how from birth I have been outflowing through eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind? Okay? Maybe outflowing is a really good translation because it feels like that. And if you can ever catch yourself doing it, do we listen for gossip? Oh, you hear somebody mention your name over there, and then they look at you and they look away. Oh, outflowing ear energy, right? When you hear somebody's gossiping, your name mentioned, and somebody, can you go, what a waste of time. Good luck, I'm my own worst enemy. You can't hurt me any worse than I hurt It's really hard to do. It's hard to not pay attention when you think somebody's talking about you. You don't believe we're outflowing? Oh, yeah. Oh, man. So here I was. I'll save that story. Okay, so yeah, it's tricky. And yet, try your best, man. I can't think of anything better to do. Question? Comments? So, there we go. The Bodhisattva is going to, in the stanzas that follow, let's see, we did number 3. Look, there's number 4, number 5. Looks at dharmas. He looks at living beings' thoughts. Turnover. He looks at afflictions. He looks at the faculties of living beings, how we know. He looks at our delusions and how their delusions are illusory. He looks at rebirth, all the different paths of rebirth, and mental habits. Look over on page 92, 93. Paragraph 2. He observes beings according to thoughts, wishes, faculties, understandings. With eloquence, he teaches appropriately to each one. That's the summary phrase. Between now and then is a listing of all the things the Bodhisattva knows before he or she begins to teach. That's the content of his lesson. That's his syllabus, his lesson plan. What he or she is able to command before they get in to people's minds and hearts to teach them. And then, knowing all that stuff, he knows exactly how much and how little to say, what language to say it in. Sometimes he teaches with gesture, sometimes teaches with silence. Okay. Okay. Oh, that's okay. You have to charge more for multiple questions. Is- Okay. I do. I want to repeat the question. So the question was, we teach Guanyin Bodhisattva's method to, what was it, to deal with problems, right? Oh, facing difficulties. For people facing difficulties, we teach recitation of Guanyin. For people who recite the Buddha's name, do they also experience the dissolution of difficulties the way you would by reciting Guanyin's name? Correct? And third part is it possible to switch? Can you switch dharmas? That question is about the nature of cultivation, right? And is that Ben? Is Ben asking the question? No, okay. So Ben asks interesting questions like that. Ben and Gold Coast. So. We talked at lunch today about what we called marvelous rules. Moming qi miao de guiju, right? These rules that come out of empty space that nobody knows who started it, but people believe it with this fervor. All these crazy ideas that are not based on principle. And they arrive in Buddhist communities usually around 3 events in life. One is birth, one is death, and one is marriage. All these experts arrive with these strongly held opinions about what people are supposed to do in those situations. Cultivation is another one. And one of the questions is, people are people. Chinese culture, Vietnamese culture, have been in the world for centuries. Buddhism has influenced Chinese, Vietnamese culture for centuries, the same way that culture has influenced Buddhism. Chinese Buddhism is not Japanese Buddhism. Japanese Buddhism is not Thai Buddhism. Thai Buddhism is not Sri Lankan Buddhism. American Buddhism, North American Buddhism, will become its own thing as the Dharma that we absorb from all the different Buddhist countries of Asia comes together into our melting pot. We practice a blend of, you'd say, the principles of the nature and the culture that wraps around those principles. The principles arrive embedded in a culture, right? So far, so good. Everybody agree? Mahayana teachings talk about 84,000 practices. Theravada teachings do not. There are Buddhist cultures where lay people are not supposed to meditate. You're not. Basically, you support the Sangha. You get blessings for a better life. That's it. That's all you're allowed to do. That's changing. It's not so much the case. There are cultures, Buddhist cultures. There's a temple just 4 blocks from us, where the only method of practice is called Nembutsu. Namo Amidab, Namo Amidab, Namo Amidab, Namo Amidab. Namo Amida Butsu becomes Namo Amidab, Namo Amidab, Namo Amidab. That's what you do. It's Jodo Shinshu practice. It's a totally legit, powerful community practice, but it's limited. That's what you do, right? And if you ask Jodo Shinshu practitioners to do Zazen, they'll say, oh, we don't do that. That's not the right way to practice. So, okay, you get the point. There are lots and lots of ways to practice. When you bring in these rules, things get complicated. There are, within the Mahayana, people who will tell you that you cannot recite the Shurangama mantra after dark. It's wrong. Bad, dangerous. Did you know that? I hope not. Scratch that. Wind the tape back. I don't want people to even hear that, right? If it's after dark here, what time is it in Germany? It's morning, right? It's sunlight. We have a round planet that we live on. We now have global communications where this lecture tonight is being translated in the Gold Coast to China, where it's noon, right? It's actually 2 p.m. How strange, you know, that people, Shifu would say, 没有事情找事情干, right? Nothing's going on. You have to find something to keep yourself busy. So you invent these rules. Okay. So the questioner asked about 2, I don't want to say competing, let's say complementary Dharma practices. If you recite Guanyin's name to end your difficulties, can you recite the Buddha's name and end your difficulties too? Well, I can think of about 4 different angles to answer that question from. One answer would be yes. The other answer would be no. So far, so good? Okay. What do I mean by that? Well, when you recite the Buddha's name, you are invoking what's called the Pure Land Dharma method. And the purpose of the Pure Land Dharma method, by and large, 48 instructions, are to seek rebirth in Amitabha's Pure Land. When you get to the Pure Land, yes, indeed, all of your problems are over. Difficulties have ended for you. So that's yes, you can. Guanyin Bodhisattva's vows are not the 48 vows, but they do overlap because Guanyin Bodhisattva appears as a helper to Amitabha, the Buddha, who made those vows. Guanyin Bodhisattva's vows, depending on which incarnation of Guanyin you look at, say, if you have trouble, recite my name and I will lend you a hand. ending difficulties. That's different from the 48 vows of Amitabha. You get help right now. So, to answer the questioner's question, it depends on your intent. If you ask Amitabha to lend you a hand to help you out of difficulties right now as your car has left the road and is heading for the ditch, Namo Amitabha. Yeah, Guan Yin probably speaks Buddha. Guan Yin will probably intervene. Guan Yin is not going to say, what did you say? Oh, I'm sorry, crash, oh, you know. Sorry, wrong name. Saka. Guan Yin's not going to do that, you know. So don't worry so much, you know. Guan Yin's not going to let you die because you said, what if you say Namo Amida Butsu and, you know, Guan Yin doesn't speak Japanese? Oh, Hanzeo Bosatsu. It's not that, you know, they're not lawyers in the Pure Land. You know. On the other hand, the purpose of reciting any name is to focus, and as Master Hua would say, to Hui Guang Fan Zhao, to get rid of your false thinking, to get rid of my false thinking. That's why you recite. So that's the no. You know, you can, no, it's not the same, but yes, it is the same. The question, can you switch? Of course you can switch. You can switch, you know, multiple different practices. That's the Moming Chi Miao de Guiju. If you feel like one practice is not suiting you, you can take multiple practices. I had a long list of everything that I did on 3 Steps, 1 Bow every single day. And it was a dozen different practices, from bowing to eating harmless plant-based, to reciting mantras, to meditating, to reciting Guan Yin's name, 108 Great Compassion mantras, memorizing sutras, not getting angry at Marty, you know, broke that vow a lot. All those practices all in one day, you know, why are you limiting? It's, if probably somebody who asks, can you switch, is someone who is recovering from monotheism, a recovering theist like me, right? Because thou shalt have no gods before me. What part of the 10 Commandments are you not clear about, right? Thou shalt not. So I don't dare switch from Amitabha to Guan Yin without permission, you know. It's okay. As Master Hua would say, you still don't appreciate how compassionate they really are. They're on your side. They're just waiting for us to wake up. Those bodhisattvas and Buddhas. So that's my short answer. Cleaning out my document folder, I ran into a song that I really like that I haven't sung for a long time. It's originally, the text apparently came from Master Zheng Yan Shangren. And it was put into music by Guo Mengyong, her liturgist for years, another liturgist. And it's called Sheng Sheng Shi Shi Dou Zai Puti Zhong. It was made popular by Yin Zhengyang. And it's got a different register. I won't quite be able to hit it all, but it's a wonderful song. And it's one of those that we translated to make it suit. So, Ren Sheng Mang Mang Fu Chen Wu Ji Da Hai Zhong. 任由风浪漂浮，随境转上，何 去何从？离缘觉悟，孙是宇宙真理爱。从此解脱业力，现即人间，去来自在。离地藏王菩萨大愿，但愿众生离苦。法观世音菩萨大喜，但愿爱心广大无边。发心利愿，生生世世都在菩提中。利愿发心，但愿生生世世都在菩提中。离地藏王菩萨大愿，但愿众生离苦。法观世音菩萨大喜，但愿爱心广大无边。发心利愿，生生世世都在菩提中。利愿发心，但愿生生世世都在菩提中。Lost and drifting on samsara's ocean tide, don't know where we've come from, where we're going, so unsatisfied. Bow for Bodhi, search for wisdom worldwide. In the Saha land we're free to wander, karma cast aside. With the resolve of deeds on, may all beings leave suffering. Pledge with the great heart of Guan Yin, may her great compassion never end. Bow with heart and mind, time and time again awakening. Minds and hearts, one resolve, may all beings awaken time and time again. Minds and hearts, one resolve, may all beings awaken time and time again. I like the way it sounds in the mandolin. Anyway, that's originally a Tzu song, but it hasn't been in English before that was singable. They translated it, but it was still not yet decoded. So, lost and drifting on samsara's ocean tide, don't know where we've come from, where we're going, so unsatisfied. Vow for Bodhi, search for wisdom worldwide. In the Saha land we're free to wander, karma cast aside. Vow with the resolve of Dizang, may all beings leave suffering. Pledge with the great heart of Guanyin, may this great compassion never end. Vow with heart and mind, time and time again awakening. Minds and hearts, one resolve. May all beings awaken time and time again. 不错哈，翻译英文还可以哈。立地藏王菩萨大愿，但愿众生得离苦；发观世音菩萨大心，但愿爱心广大无边。发心立愿，生生世世都在菩提中。立愿发心，但愿众生生生世世都在菩提中。Okay, and one way to pledge with the great heart of Guanyin is to join our blood drive. You see how I smoothly slipped that in there? So Tuesday at Temple Shalom Netivot, the synagogue over on University Avenue, is a 4-religion interfaith blood drive. The rabbi is going to be there. There'll be, it's a woman's mosque. Islamic women have a mosque. And they are co-sponsors, as are we, and the synagogue and the Christian, what's the group? Christians of the Way. Next to the synagogue is their neighboring Christian church. So the Red Cross is currently short of blood. And there's a distinct, strong need for people to donate blood. And we discovered it's not a Chinese thing to donate blood. Did you know that? Pretty much. It's like, I think I'll hang on to my blood, thank you. It's just not popular. It's not a thing that we do. There's a sense that the body should remain intact. Master Zheng Yin, interestingly enough, put that one to rest in Taiwan. Suji members. So Suji is big on blood drive. But it took a long time. It took some cultural engineering to get through that veneer. Chinese culture does not like autopsies either. So there was no such thing as a body donor until Zheng Yin Shangren made it a thing. And now there's this long list of people willing to donate their bodies to medical science because of her speaking principle to the fear and to the Moming Chi Miao de Guiju. Right? Anyway, just to say, I'm on at 12:30. If you sign up for the 12:30 slot, you won't find it because that's me. And last time we did it before, and there were a bunch of volunteers who went over to help out. And the rabbi is going to be volunteering to sit there and sign people up as they come. It's 1316. As you go south heading towards the bay, it's on the left. Remember Berkeley Adult School used to be there, and the Shell Station, it's just up from there. So, yeah, it's a good thing to do. And they say, the story goes, that one donation of blood can be divided and save 3 lives, when depending on what's needed. So, and I'm type O, and they need type O most. So, I've been getting these calls, and there's a cool app for your phone, Blood Donor. You get to. There's also a $5 gift card in Amazon. Yeah, $5 in Amazon. What can you get for $5 in Amazon? You get a book for your Kindle. Yep. Okay, that's Tuesday, and it's afternoon. It starts at from 12 to 6, so till 5:15. Yeah. You will not see the 3 of us for a couple of weeks. Jin Chuan Shi, Jin Wei Shi, and myself will be heading off to China next week for a tour. Going to travel to some mountains, see our old friends, Dharma Master Ming Hai, Dharma Master Chunwan, Dharma Master Yun Guan, and Zhao Cheng Fa Shi in Shanghai. Our friends in the publishing bureau, and going to also, at the end of the trip, get to go to Dunhuang, the desert caves out in Xinjiang, which is a place I've never been. Looking forward to that. And to the stone grottos of Longman. So this is another travel, another tour, another trip, and we'll be back in mid-September to see you all again. Jin Po Shi will be carrying on with the Sutra of Limitless Lifespan, and we'll come back with lots of photos and lots of stories to tell and to share. Jerry, how many folks are on? 50 on YouTube. 30 from China. They clamped down. That's another story. Okay. We really appreciate the work in sharing the Dharma electronically, and the translators in the Gold Coast who are diligently sending the Dharma over the Great Firewall. It's pretty amazing. Okay, any more things to announce? Comments? No? Marty is going to be starting his Friday night. Oh, September 20th. The Avatamsaka. He's going to be lecturing the Avatamsaka, yeah. Okay, let's transfer the merit. We had a wedding today. Wasn't that fun? Yeah. Dedication of merit. Make a wish. Send it out. We'll use the mandolin to spread this sound. Here we go. May every living being, our minds as one and radiant with... That's too low. It's too low. This is where we did our... May every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can find in giving unity, may their minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light dispel the darkness of their endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. One more. May all become compassionate and wise. There's that chord. All right, let's bow to the Buddha and see you all next week. Bow in respect to the Venerable Master. Nam